Chapter 23 Chapter Summary in which sexting occurs. Chapter Notes I'm happy to announce the day has finally come. Yes folks, I have created the gospel. I tried to write out the scene, I really did, but it ended up being super long and hard to read, so instead I made a copy of Aaliyah's PowerPoint and posted it to Tumblr. You can find it here http://bullysquadess.tumblr.com/post/13907977635 The Sin Commandments Disclaimer. This presentation contains images of bra-covered boobies, so if you would rather not know what the author's admittedly stunning tits look like, please don't open the link. Also, I went back and added fan art links to a few previous chapters, so feel free to check those out. Enjoy, sinners. See the end of the chapter for more notes. He was going to get Aaliyah a dozen presents. Scratch that, he was going to get Aaliyah 1,000 presents. And then he was going to buy her a dozen cars to deliver those thousands of presents. He would build her an entire castle, brick by brick and all by hand, in order to store all her presents, then another one when she ran out of space there. Although maybe she'd be more comfortable with a card. Adrian thought, a Herculean feat considering his current situation. Yeah, just a nice card attached to an overflowing gift basket of candy and fancy lotions and camera equipment, and he was sexting Ladybug. Ladybug was sexting him back. And if her messages were any indication, he wasn't making an absolute mess of it. Adrian was about 4,012% sure it was all thanks to Aaliyah's sin commandments, and he silently gave thanks once again that she had cornered him that day in the library. Any embarrassment he had felt at the time was just a distant memory now, as the absolute thrill of putting his teachings to use outweighed whatever lingering complaints he might have over her guerrilla methods. Aaliyah was a savage, make no mistake, but damn if she didn't inspire amazing results. Those results being the fact he now had his undoubtedly horny, lingerie-clad girlfriend asking him to play with her before bed. Thanks to Plag's interruption earlier that night, Adrian had yet to get his rocks off for nearly 20 hours now, a new high score as of late. And between that fact and his lady's mind-blowing innuendos, God, he could only shudder at the thought of what must have gone down in that tub of hers. Suffice it to say, Adrian was more than a bit bothered. In fact, if the boy wasn't so fully invested in keeping his sole focus on their conversation, he would have no doubt come already. Probably twice. But Aaliyah's words echoed true. Commandment number 8: balance your attention. The texts will still be there once the conversation ends, so don't rush your orgasm. So he was waiting it out, the erection trapped beneath the flannel of his sleep pants a mere distraction. One he simply would not let draw his attention from her words, her flirts, her pictures, her pleasure. Well, in that case, it's playtime, kitty cat 3. That text alone was about as much an invitation as her spread legs would have been to him right now, and Adrian was more than ready for whatever she had planned for him. I like the sound of that, my lady. What kind of games do you have in mind? He could think of a few. Truth or dare? Never have I ever. Guess where my hand is right now? It's called the question game. You familiar? You can't still be curious after today's round, could you? We just played like an hour ago. I know, but I'm still not satisfied yet. Now that wouldn't do. Well, as your partner and boyfriend, it's my sincerest pleasure to help you reach your satisfaction. Sigh, and yet you continue to derail me with your oh so clever innuendos. Well, if nothing else, at least he was getting her worked up. Adrian grinned at his phone, deciding to give in to Ladybug's obvious desire to get on with the game. Wonder what she's just burning to ask me. Alright then, ladies ask first. She didn't respond for another few minutes, and Adrian's heart began to pound at the thought that perhaps her question would come with another picture. He would give anything to see another glimpse of her, to add to his precious collection of snapshots saved to a very hidden part of his phone. Adrian stifled a moan, recalling the lean lines of her legs, the smooth expanse of her bared shoulders, the way her skin was drenched and flushing from what might well have been more than just her bath. Here's my question. That day at the mall a few weeks ago, when I said I needed you, you didn't think I was asking for help with an Akuma, did you, Chat Noir? Busted. He knew it was only a matter of time before that little blunder caught up with him, though the timing could not be worse. Adrian racked his brain for some way to convince her he hadn't been planning on coming over and having sex with her against the nearest semi-horizontal surface, but he drew up blank. So he just decided to fess up, steeling himself for the inevitable ribbing he was about to receive as he typed out with a wince. It's possible I might have had something else in mind. Yes, sorry about that, my lady. Her answer was unexpected. I wasn't asking you because I wanted an apology. I mean, I probably would have thought the same thing given the context, so you aren't mad. Of course no. TBH, I'm more surprised with just how quickly you were willing to drop everything when you thought you'd be getting some bright relief and whispered lust meat in the pit of Adrian's stomach as he smirked down at his phone. She could probably invite him over to vacuum her living room and he would show up in a matter of minutes if it meant he got to spend time with her. Adrian thought the hard-ons made it abundantly clear just how very attracted he was to her, but perhaps Ladybug needed a reminder. Apparently, you aren't familiar with the single-minded force that is a teenage boy's arousal, though I could introduce you if you'd like. Oh, I'm well aware of how powerful something like that can be. His eyebrow peaked. Rivaled only in ferocity by that of a teenage girl's sex drive, evil, devious girl. Adrian thought with a groan, cunning and sly and too goddamn flirty for her own good. If he found it difficult not to touch himself earlier, the urge was near impossible to resist now, as her text inspired a dizzying fantasy of the marathon sex they could be having to flash through his head. Adrian imagined fucking her near senseless, taking her any way she wanted as long as it entailed their naked hips smashing into each other. He imagined them riding off their orgasms together, imagined going to work on her with his tongue and teasing fingers until he was finally hard enough to take her a second time. It would be filthy and fast and never-ending, Ladybug crying out as he made her come for him again and aga ahem, focus. Adrian's hands behaved, even as his mind did not. The boy took a steadying breath, cooling his ardor a bit as he collected his thoughts. Now that is something I'd just love to get a demonstration of patience chat on. I'm not done playing yet. Adrian wasn't sure how much more of her playing he could take before there was some kind of fallout read, before he came in his pants, but that's not to say he couldn't try and hold out for as long as he could. So he decided to play along with her games, if only to prove that he could. We'll see which one of us falters first. Well, in that case, is it my turn to ask a question now? You just did. It's a good thing you're pretty. BC, your jokes are terrible, my lady. You really think I'm pretty? Also, fuck off, I'm hilarious, princess. I could write volumes on your beauty 3, but right now I just want to know how well your birthday gift fits. Am I allowed to answer with a picture? Yes, fuck yes. Oh fucking hell yes, please do. It took only 20 seconds for her to reply, the attached image poking a sharp hole in Adrian's arousal. She sent him a goddamn thumbs up, just a bare hand against a blank background. He grumbled at her tongue-in-cheek response, grinning nonetheless as he sent her a string of frowning cat emojis. Of course she wouldn't make it that easy. This is Ladybug we're talking about. Does this answer your question? Tease, I was hoping perhaps to see the bra. Oh, of course, here you go. This time, the picture showed what looked to be vaguely like a shoulder, though the shot was such an extreme close-up that Adrian could make out little more than pale skin, pink cushion, and the smallest streak of black. He saved it nonetheless. Oh, aren't you precious 3? What? I don't get anything in return. Also, my next question is boxers or briefs? Am I allowed to answer with a picture? I think we already established that. Seems I'm not the only one feeling frisky, he thought with a smirk, hooking a thumb into his sleep pants to drag them dangerously low upon his hips. Adrian's shot was just as tauntingly cropped, showing just the edge of his V-cuts, the ones he was secretly very proud of, as well as the aggressed printed band of his black underwear. He conveniently left out the very noticeable erection jutting out just a few inches away. Plenty of time to build up to that. Trick question, boxer briefs, fancy threads, you gonna show me yours? Is that your question? Is that yours? I will go to bed, you know. Careful, Adrian chided himself. You want to push but not too hard. Apologies, my lady, though aren't you already in bed? No, my Kwame is in my bed and I doubt she'd appreciate the distraction. I'm on my lounger. Her Kwame. They had spoken only to a degree out their respective companions, and Plag was usually tight-lipped about his other half, but Adrian still wondered how the little creature must feel about all this. How has your Kwame reacted to us so far? And before you decide to be cute, yes, that's my question. Oh, Tiki's been trying to set us up for years. She's a romantic at heart. 3 in that case, I think I like Tiki. Must be nice. Plag has threatened to break my transformation every time we so much as look at each other. In that case, I think I like Plag. Oh, you would. They were getting off topic, and Adrian would be damned if he let their intensity fade away quite yet. He reached out to type with a leer. You both do seem to make things hard for me, though in 2 very different ways. 3, when in doubt, make a dick pun. Her response was practically instantaneous, and deliciously heated. Are things hard for you right now? There, now that was the right track. Adrian's simmering arousal flared back up to boil as he shivered at her response. Almost on a whim, he turned on his camera once again, switching it to the front lens and aiming it at the bottom half of his face. Parting his lips, Adrian brought one hand up before biting gently on the knuckle of his thumb. He took great care to ensure she would be able to tell he was now shirtless, as evidenced by his bare chest, and snapped a few shots. He chose the best one, sending it off along with his hearty affirmation. Incredibly so, my lady. Her response wasn't immediate, which he knew meant one of 2 things. 1, he fucked up, or 2, she was taking a picture. Luckily, it was the second option. Her image came nearly a minute later, drawing the breath out of Adrian's lungs with its arrival. Well, in that case, I think you've earned a peek. Ladybug laid on her side, moonlight filtering down from an unseen window to bounce off the pale expanse of skin stretching the frame. Adrian could just see the curve of one hip, dipping low into a trim waist right before the edge of the photo cut the rest of her off from view. A hand was poised atop the peak, fingers settled into a walking position as one slim digit slid under a familiar, black band of lace. He greedily drank in the picture, eyes tracing and retracing the swell of her hips, the position of her hand, that pulse-spiking view of her underwear. The image of her body wrapped up in that particular color in his color sent a shivering thrill up Adrian's spine. The thrill that she had marked herself, had declared herself his as she writhed around in the lingerie chosen specifically by him for her. 2 minutes he allowed himself to gape before getting back into the game. Those fingers look like they're on a mission, wouldn't you like to know? I would in fact, and as I recall it's my turn to ask a question. Alright, shoot, do I dare? After only a moment's hesitation, Adrian typed out the question that had been burning in the back of his mind for God knows how long. Despite his suspicions, despite her little hints and his own subconscious mind reasoning that she must, Adrian had to know for sure if his fantasies were just that. So he bit the bullet. Ladybug, do you touch yourself? His phone was silent for a solid minute, and he was just beginning to plan his apology when. Do you? He could have chided her for answering with another question, but hell if his brain wasn't close to mush at this point. Well yeah, I am a teenager as am I, which means. He wanted needed her to tell him. Needed Ladybug's confirmation that she feels this too, that she got just as worked up when they were together. That she went home with that same tight feeling low in her abdomen after he ground against her. That she let herself enjoy the heat the two of them had conjured whenever she at last found herself alone. Adrian had to know she, yes chat, I touch myself. The text set him on the verge of a meltdown. Ladybug's words and the images they conjured causing his head to whirl in the most divinely tortuous way possible. Adrian couldn't have suppressed his groan even if he tried. Her answer wasn't so much surprising as it was gratifying. Heart-stopping and erotic, and so incredibly gratifying. Adrian lulled his head back against the pillow beneath him, hands clenching in an effort to occupy themselves outside of his pants. Today's earlier fantasies came flooding back with a vengeance as the images of her hands roaming her wanting self seemed to constrict his every breath with their now vulgar reality. The teen reluctantly pulled his attention back to the conversation, grasping at his big boy thoughts before he lost the ability to communicate entirely. But what he wouldn't give to have her in bed with him right now. I'm glad to hear it. You deserve every ounce of pleasure you give yourself and so much more, so much more. That's actually incredibly sweet. And also less intense of a reaction than I was expecting. If it makes you feel any better, I'm pretty sure I just broke a blood vessel trying not to cream my pants at your response, so I figured sweet would be the better route. Geez, are you still okay to play? Please, if Adrian's life stopped every time he got aroused, the boy would never get anything done. Absolutely. Hit me with your best question, how often? My lady, I'm asking how often you do it. Dear Lord, this was so much better than truth or dare, it. Adrian sent the text off with a falsely innocent smirk. Oh, knock it off, you scheming cat, you know what I'm taking about. Can't say that I do. Care to elaborate, my lady? 3 groans for a million years. How often do you masturbate? He could practically picture her blushing, exasperated face, and the thought of it almost tempered out the lust still ruling over him. Almost. So clinical, my lady. I average about twice a day. Now that seems a little overboard. Absolutely not. Though lately it's been more like 3. What constitutes lately? When did we start dating? Officially. 3 weeks ago. Well then, by lately I mean the past month and a half. You're an incorrigible flirt, you know that. Yes, but I'm your incorrigible flirt and you love it. 3. Adrian hoped she was ginning as much as he was. Is it possible to be both love-struck and hopelessly aroused? He wondered as she sent him a long string of eye-rolling emojis. I'm ready to hear your next question now. She was getting worked up, and Adrian finally felt like he might be wrestling the upper hand back. Time to crank up the heat then. Well, in that case, I want to know where you like to let your fingers wander. Princess. Adrian shifted restlessly atop his bed as the message sent. The room was hot, but he knew it had nothing to do with the thermostat and everything to do with, well, most often, in bed. The boy peeked an eyebrow with a lewd grin. Not exactly what I had in mind, but I'll take it. After all, she was telling him where location-wise she liked to get herself off, and he could certainly use that information for future. But still, my favorite place to wander is in the tub, more specifically during my bubble baths. He knew it, goddammit. He knew she spent too long. His picture. He had sent her his picture when she was in the tub and she thanked him for it, had cursed her wobbly legs and then apologized for taking so long to finish. Fucking hell, Ladybug, did you earlier, while we were texting? This girl is going to be the death of me. Adrian thought piteously, shifting himself around in order to find a comfortable way to sit in his now almost painfully aroused state. Shaking fingers reached out to open her reply. Unfortunately no, my hands were otherwise occupied with you chat on. You know I would have more than happily given you few minutes alone to take care of yourself, my lady. Adrian gulped, gnawing on his lip as his hips twitched forward greedily. Touch me. His penis cried. Not yet, his mind responded, and Adrian couldn't decide which one to listen to. Before he could side with either head, however, Ladybug drew his attention back with another muted ding. It would have taken more than just a few minutes, and besides, the picture sandwiched between her texts showed pouting lips trapped between white teeth. It showed bared shoulders, no straps in sight. It showed her hair, loose and flowing around her reclining form. It showed her finger, cocked under her chin in a come-hither gestures. It showed Adrian who was really in charge of this conversation. I'm so tired of having to take care of myself. How many times had she broken him that night? Was this the sixth? Oh fuck it, simple counting was far too strenuous for Adrian to tackle at this point. In fact, most all of his brain power was being put towards the single task of not finishing in his pants. That deadly double combo of picture and plea hit AK-0 right to his central mainframe, and if the strangled sound emitting from Adrian's throat was any indication, it had done irreversible damage. Fuck, Ladybug, I want so badly to be able to take care of you. He needed her now more than any other time his hormone-addled brain could recall ever wanting her before, which was really saying something considering how long he'd been pining after her. Do you want to know what I want from you, Chat Noir? Yes, shit, please tell me what you want me to do to you, my lady. Now this is what he'd been hoping for, been waiting for since the very beginning of their little play session. Adrian wanted her to tell him, in the most explicit terms her sweet mouth could manage, what exactly her body craved. I want you to slip through my bedroom window. I want you to see me here, laying down in your lingerie. God, Ladybug, I want you to sit across from me, in the office chair, and watch. I want you to watch me chat. Are you watching? Fuck yes, good kitty. Adrian was shaking, groaning into the dark of his room as flashes of white-hot arousal sliced into him with every breath. He was about to give in, about to set fire to the sin commandments in order to quell the now painful need he had, when Ladybug sent her response. He opened the text with one hand as the other stilled on the band of his briefs. If you were here right now and I told you what I wanted you to do for me, you'd do it right. Anything and everything you wanted, my lady. He needed her. Needed her warmth and her words. Needed to hear her say these things, ask these things in person. So close, his hand was just so fucking close. In that case, I'd just love it if you could be here to help me finish my chem homework. Now Adrian was a gentleman and a scholar, meaning he would never stoop so low as to use the term bitch. And yet he barely had time to glance at her picture, some nondescript shot of a cluttered desktop, before the word slipped from between his clenched teeth, echoed through his cavernous room, and finally slipped up in their conversation window with a flood of frowning cats and colorful expletives. So maybe he wasn't that much of a gentleman. What's wrong, kitty? You don't like the pictures I take for you. I don't like the fact you always play dirty, and not in the good way. And what exactly is the good way of playing dirty, I wonder? Oh, he loved her, but she was every bit of that 5-letter word. A bitch in the most sinful, wonderful, heart-wrenching sense of the endearment. But that didn't mean Adrian couldn't be a bigger one. Would you like a demonstration? Yes please. The boy cocked an eyebrow at the text, conjuring a wicked grin as he decided his final play. Adrian was tired of being blue-balled, and with the way things were going, coupled with the fact it was nearing 2 a.m., it was clear Ladybug was about to cut him off. So he decided to beat her to the punch, using Aaliyah's final commandment to effectively cement his victory as he left her squirming for more. Tapping quickly over to his camera, Adrian rolled over with a grunt. The sensation of his hard cock pressed against the mattress beneath him was tortuous, but he didn't want to run the risk of his bulge sneaking into the shot quite yet, so he breathed through it. Teases don't get dick pics. The blonde bent his knees just slightly, raising his hips a few inches off the bed in a way that drew adequate attention to his modelesque, shall we say, assets. Back curved, shoulders flexed, and the toned swell of his backside straining against his sleep pants, Adrian lined up what he considered an A-plus shot, including just a peek of the jawline he knew drove Ladybug insane for good measure. His Chad Noir smile edged the frame of the over-the-collar picture, and scheming fingers reached out to send it along with a taunt. Well then, I guess this will have to tide you over until I can fully educate you some other time, chat, but for now, I find myself becoming incredibly tired. Chad Noir, don't you dare, I swear to God. Sweet dreams, my lady. Commandment number 10, always leave them wanting more. You are such an incredible ass. Correction, I have such an incredible ass, and good night, Ladybug 3. Adrian laughed deeply, deriving way too much pleasure from inflicting the same coy move she'd pulled on him so many times before. He could almost picture the way her cute face would scrunch up in frustration, the girl giving a huff at having her toy so suddenly taken away. Serves her right, he thought as he snuffed out his lights for the night. That'll teach Ladybug not to taunt. Though the boy's victory was to be short-lived it would seem, as 3 new messages popped up. On her side of the window faster than you could say, "Motherfucker you thought." The first 2 were texts, and the last. A picture. Double correction, your girlfriend has such an incredible ass, and goodnight chat 3. Adrian's heart stopped. Then double timed. Then stopped again. Then well let's just say he didn't have the higher brain capacity to tell you what his heart was doing in that moment because glancing up from the phone screen was Ladybug, her body contorted into the very same position he himself had captured just moments ago and her smirk just as devious. Adrian swallowed hard, his eyes tracing over her shoulder, down the curve of her back and finally landing to settle on the picture's undisputed focal point. Well, she was right about one thing, his girlfriend did have such an incredible ass. And the fact that ass was now almost completely bare, crossed by 2 thin strands of lace that strained against the swells of flesh beneath it, only emphasized the incredible factor in the most devious of ways. Bent over on her knees, thigh spread, back arched, Adrian had seen tamer things on porn sites for fuck's sake. And the fact that it was Ladybug. His girlfriend, needless to say, it seemed as though the leave her wanting more strategy had backfired spectacularly, and Adrian now found himself desperately scrambling to reignite the conversation with shaking fingers and muttered curses. Mistake. You fucked up big time buddy, you know I think I've changed my mind and am now extremely awake. Her reply came in the form of a single ladybug emoji. My lady. For the rest of the night his phone was silent, and for the rest of the night Adrian aggressed burned. Yo Marinette, you alright there sister? On a full night's rest, Nino's voice was usually quite loud. And on 4 hours of sleep, it was deafening. The zombie wearing Marinette's clothes winced, slinging her bag down next to the boy before following in an almost comical slump. Tired, the creature rasped, dead eyes flicking over her unfinished chemistry worksheet with disinterest. What, you stay up late working on your sewing or something? Or something, she grumbled out, causing her friend to quirk up an eyebrow before dropping it down into a waggle. Oh I know that look, Nino began, passing her the energy drink that had somehow materialized from his bag. You sexted your mystery boy last night didn't you? Marinette downed the can, polishing it off in a measly 20 seconds before exhaling at the rush of caffeine through her veins. You know, Aaliyah promised me a couple weeks ago she wasn't going to tell anyone about the guy the first may or may not be dating. And yet somehow, everyone in the school seems to know about him. Funny how that works. Well you know Aaliyah, the boy said with a wink. Marinette smirked. I do, she said, rolling her shoulder as her head spun lightly, though from what I hear you two have been getting pretty well acquainted lately. Nino's face twisted into a kind of dazed smile, resting on his lips before he ushered it away with a shrug. We've been speaking, he answered vaguely, seeming to get lost in thought as he tapped away at his tablet. Marinette left him to wander, thankful to have sidestepped what would have been an undoubtedly drawn-out interrogation over her love life. Make no mistake, Aaliyah had picked up on her best friend's shift in demeanor immediately before first period, adding it up with the girl's exhaustion to draw her incredibly accurate conclusion with a smirk. Okay, spill. Marinette had somehow skated by that confrontation as well, making it clear she wasn't interested in sharing the details of her night until such a time as she was fully capable of going more than one sentence without spacing out. Due to sleepiness of course, not like Marinette kept running the entirety of last night's exchange through her head or anything. Not like she had gotten off on his pictures and his words both last night and this morning. Not like she was here once again, secluding herself in her room during lunch hour to relive the whole session. You know, maybe 3 times a day isn't so excessive after all. Marinette convinced herself as she laid back in bed, reaching for her phone with one hand while the other slid to decidedly less innocent places. As per Aaliyah's advice, Marinette had set up a buried folder in the deepest regions of her phone, expressly for the purpose of saving screenshots and pictures so she could clear out her inbox of all traces of last night's tryst. Despite the fact Operation Break Chat Noir had ultimately ended up a success, Marinette hadn't exactly exited the battle without taking a few hits herself. His arousing teases, that eagerness to please, his goddamn pictures, turns out her boyfriend knew a thing or two about sexting, himself. And Marinette could only flush at the thought of seeing him again, of facing his inevitable smirk in person after what had gone on between them via text. So when an Akuma shattered the window to her French classroom less than an hour later, causing both her and an equally tired Adrian to jerk in reaction, Marinette had only one thought. Well, this will be interesting. Chapter and notes lol, this was really long, and also what is a plot? And here are the pics. Degree http://bullysquadess.tumblr.com/post/1391461795332/sweats heavily. I'm just going to lie and say this.